Welcome to Survey Disconnect Learning Lounge. I'm here with Kelly Fernandez, one of my graduate students, and she's going to help me demonstrate some of the principles of survey development that I'd like to get across during this learning lounge. So this session will demonstrate the importance of careful survey development in obtaining the responses to the questions that you really want to ask, not the questions you think you're asking or that the respondent may misinterpret. So this is a very short intro to the topic because survey development is a very large topic and there are a lot of resources out there that you can access to write your survey questions. There's also a handout which has some of these resources on the second page, and so those could be a good starting point for you. So in this slide, the first slide, I just want to talk about just some of the highlights of that handout, some of the steps that people should take when developing a survey. And so the first thing is obviously you need to articulate what is the purpose of the research project for which you're doing the survey. And so you lay that out in detail, which is very, very important. And then for every survey question, you need to write a survey question objective. And students find, and also researchers find this very tedious, but it will save you so much time in getting information, getting erroneous information or having to redo a survey. And it will really guide your question. And you'll see what I mean from the demonstration that Kelly and I are going to give you. You can choose to develop a survey or use existing questions that are out there in national surveys or other survey research that's out there, which I highly recommend because that would be a survey question that has been used before, probably validated. You can compare to it. So you can, but sometimes you have a new research project that you have no one's ever done before, which is really kind of fun, but then you have to develop your own questions. After that, you would share these questions with experts. You would pre-test it on the sample, which you're aiming to survey in your research project. Of course, you'll probably need to revise it because that's what always happens when you pre-test, and then possibly validate your questions. So let's see what happens if we don't follow this process. So Kelly will help me with that. So hi, my name is Liz, and I'd like to ask you a few questions about your shopping habits. Would that be okay?
Sure.
Great. How often do you go to the grocery store?
Do you mean to shop or browse?
To shop.
For myself or for other people? Because sometimes I go with my aunt to help.
For yourself.
Okay. Well, let me think. I don't go every day. Maybe go once a week, but I also don't go every week.
Well, what about monthly? How can you estimate how often monthly you go?
I'd probably say 3 times a month I go.
Okay, 3 times a month. And where do you go shopping for food? Generally, where do you generally go shopping for food?
Oh, you meant food shopping, not just general
yes,
shopping.
yes. I meant food shopping in
Okay.
the previous question.
Okay. Well, I do go to the grocery store, but I also will go to the farmer's market during the summer to get my fruits and veggies. So, but I don't know if that would count.
You could count that.
Okay. Okay. All right.
So, do you see the problem here? Kelly has to keep asking me for clarification. Why? Because this question, how often do you go to the grocery store, isn't first specifying any time frame for the for what the answer should be, right? Is it weekly? Is it monthly? Is it daily? And so then I have to tell her, oh yes, why don't you just use monthly? But I could be a different interviewer and say, well, if you go 3 times, if you don't go every week, but you go almost every week, use once a week. But that's not accurate because she doesn't go every week. So the second problem is it going shopping for yourself or for someone else? It's ambiguous. So you have to say, you should say for yourself. And also, the term grocery store is ambiguous, very ambiguous, because you can go food shopping to so many other places. So, and then the second question, where do you generally go shopping for food? This is where Kelly goes, you mean food? See, that's a big problem, because maybe I've already filled that out. Maybe it's a computerized survey and I've filled it out, and it's off into the ether. So of course it's food. And so generally is also vague. Like, what do I mean by general? So this has the same problem as those problems as those noted in the prior question 1, but also added problem of generally. So let's look at the solution to this problem. Some of the solutions. So if we were to follow good survey design research principles, we would have a question objective. So perhaps the objective is to determine how often, weekly or monthly, college students shop for food at all these different places: grocery stores, convenience stores, supermarkets, farmers markets, or any other store that sells food except for restaurants and fast food restaurants and other types of restaurants. So the question could be revised to read, how many times per week or month do you go food shopping? And then telling the respondent what places we're talking about. Please include any place you would go food shopping. It can be a supermarket, a smaller grocery store, convenience store, or farmer's market, for example. And then we tell them, don't include any fast food or other types of restaurant. So that's for question 1. What about question 2? Well, question 2 was asking where they were shopping for food. And so maybe the question objective should be to determine where college students shop for food most often. Again, we would clarify that it wouldn't be fast food restaurants or other restaurants where they go and get food, where they would go and get food. So perhaps we could frame this as, of all the places you shop for food, which type of place do you shop for food most often? And we have a list. We have supermarkets, grocery stores, convenience stores, farmers markets, or somewhere else. And that way, if they shop somewhere else, let's say a food co-op, you can note that. So I wanted to just talk a little bit about what are some of the tips, what are the properties of good questions? And there are more than 3 here, but I'm going to show you 3. The first part is the question and the answer part of this process is all scripted. Everybody hears the same question, the same answer part. It's all scripted. You're not depending on an interviewer like me to kind of explain everything, because then you get variability in how the question's asked. Secondly, the question means the same thing to every respondent, so they understand the question the same way. And third, the kinds of answers that constitute appropriate responses are communicated consistently to all the respondents. So weekly or monthly, that's how often, weekly or monthly. Everybody hears the same thing. And then writing questions that people can answer accurately, because there are questions that people can't. So to some of the things we try to incorporate that help people answer accurately, or think about is all respondents need to understand the words in the question. So if you use words that are jargon or terms that are not commonly understood, they're not going to understand. They need to all understand what the question is looking for. They need to be able to remember what you're asking me, or cognitively be able to access that. That's going to vary by age, because children won't remember as well, elders may not. So that's going to vary by age and vary by the type of question you're asking. I mean, I can't remember what I ate a week ago. When someone asked me that question, I would say, don't remember. And they have to feel that providing the true answer to the question is okay with you as the interviewer. It's okay with the asker. Like someone might answer in a socially somewhat undesirable way, but you want to know. You may want to know questions about smoking during pregnancy, for example. If you ask the question in a way that's judgmental, like, you didn't smoke during pregnancy, did you? Then you're not going to get an honest answer. They're going to know it's not okay to say yes. And they have to be willing to answer the question. So all these questions, all these aspects of respondents and questions are going to matter to getting accurate responses to your questions. So I hope that some of this will motivate you to learn more about survey research, especially if you're going to do a survey for a research project, and consider these aspects. And I want to thank Kelly for helping me.
You're very welcome.
Thanks for listening.